Welcome to the SEO.co Search Engine Optimization Podcast. Digital marketing essentials and next-level tactics. From off-site and on-site optimization to persuasive selling and everything in between. You'll learn actionable tips on what it takes to outright and outrank your competition.
Welcome back to another episode of the SEO.co podcast. Today's episode is going to kick off a new series, How to Market a Brand New Website. Seth Godin has a best-selling book titled The Dip, and while it's certainly shorter than most of his other books, it's arguably one of his best. It centers around the concept of knowing when to quit on an idea and when to continue pushing through. The basic premise is that most people have an unrealistic idea of what growth in business looks like. They believe it happens exponentially from the start, something Godin calls the naive curve. But this is rarely true, even with the best ideas. In reality, most people start with lots of energy and excitement. And as they launch a new business or website, they experience an initial jolt of results, which sends positive feedback and encourages the entrepreneur to put in more effort. But then something inevitable happens. The results flatline while effort simultaneously decreases. It's at this point that people experience the dip. Unfortunately, most people throw in the towel at this point, but as Godin puts it, this is a bad quitting point, because the dip is typically followed by a rebound, which is where the real results occur. One of my favorite quotes from the book: "A woodpecker can tap 20 times on 1,000 trees and get nowhere but stay busy, or he can tap 20,000 times on one tree and get dinner." When launching a new website, you have to resist the tendency to believe in the naive curve and instead embrace the dip. This isn't a pessimistic outlook, it's just a realistic one. If you launch a website correctly, you'll experience your fair share of results over the first 24 to 72 hours, but then things will flatline a bit. And if you aren't careful, you'll be tempted to throw in the towel. However, as you know, true growth is just on the other side. By developing a proactive website launch plan to market your new website, you'll reach this point faster and more efficiently. In this series, we're going to talk about the what and why of a website launch plan, how to set yourself up for a successful website launch by doing all of the right things before going live, what to do on launch day to maximize your traffic and long-term results, post-launch website marketing tips for scalable traffic and conversions, and how building the right team makes all the difference when marketing a brand new website. If you're ready to learn the correct way to launch and market a website for maximum impact and lift, you're in the right place. Keep listening, and I'll dish our favorite secrets for success. First, the what and why of a website launch plan. I'd venture a guess that 95% of new websites don't have any sort of formal launch plan. They simply hit publish and then take a wait-and-see approach. But I'd also venture to say that 95% of most websites flop faster than a middle school boy jumping off the diving board at the neighborhood swimming pool. All of that to say this: a website launch plan is not a requirement, but having one typically improves results and could even put you 90 to 180 days ahead of where you'd be if you just started publishing content without any real marketing or promotional strategy. When you first launch a website, nobody knows you exist. Google doesn't know, strangers on the internet don't know, even most people in your personal and professional networks don't know. And it'll stay that way for several months if you don't develop a plan to intentionally systematize your launch. A launch plan is basically a formalized strategy for announcing and promoting your website to the right people in an effort to gain initial traction that can be parlayed into an exponential growth over the following weeks and months. As the classic saying goes, a failure to plan is a plan to fail. Without any formal launch plan, you're basically publishing content for an empty room. It's possible that some people will eventually wander into the room by accident, but why not send invitations? There's no singular formula for developing a website launch plan, but it's typically going to encompass 3 major phases. First is pre-launch. These are the steps you take just prior to launch to ensure your website is ready to go live. It's a very specific set of steps that needs to be checked off in order to ensure your launch day and post-launch processes go smoothly. Second, launch day. On launch day, all cylinders are on fire. Assuming you were intentional with your pre-launch approach, you'll see a pretty decent amount of lift in the first 24 to 72 hours. The more you can take advantage of this traffic and exposure, the better. And lastly, post-launch. While launch day is certainly important and full of excitement, it's just one day. What you do after launch day is even more important. Having a specific post-launch strategy will help you. You need each of these 3 components to give yourself the best chance of a successful website launch. And in the rest of this series, we're going to talk about some of the specific ways you can master each phase. But that's all we've got for this episode. To learn more, join us in the next episode of the SEO.co podcast.
Thank you for joining us on the SEO.co podcast. We appreciate your time. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit SEO.co for more resources based on today's topic, as well as access to more podcast episodes to help you improve your site's long-term SEO success.